Hello, thank you for stopping by. My name is Becky and this is Bex Reads, and today I am starting my next Unstuff Your Kindle Day vlog. So if you don't know what Unstuff Your Kindle Day is, it's a thing that I created with the help of April, Crystal, and Monica. Every other month we come up with like a theme and we put it to a vote, and whichever wins, we use that theme to help clear out our Kindle of free ebooks, Kindle Unlimited ebooks, ARCs, whatever, because sometimes we accumulate a lot of books on our Kindle that just never get read. This vlog challenge is open to anybody who wants to participate, even if you don't have a booktube channel. If you just want to read books to get them off of your Kindle, great, please do. But this month's theme was royalty. So anything with king, queen, prince, princess, kingdom, throne, court in the title, anything with like a crown or a throne on the cover, anything where the characters are actual royalty, anything you could think of that correlates to royalty pretty much. So I don't know, once again, who's going to be participating with me on this vlog collab challenge. If I see any videos, I will share them to my community tab. But I have already started my first book, and it is The Ever King. This is a book that I picked up while it was free. So I've been wanting to read this book, and this is the perfect time to do it. This is a fantasy romance. I think it's a series. I think the first two books, The Ever King and The Ever Queen, are a duology following the same like couple, and then after that they follow different characters from my understanding. I also know that this is a series that follows a different series by this author, which I have not read, but people have said you don't need to read that series in order to get the gist of this one. And so far I am 35% into this, and I think I agree with that. Like, I picked this up, I didn't feel like I was missing any information or anything like that, so I think you could definitely do that. Just pick up this series if you want to. But I wanted to read this one because it is a like piratey seafaring fantasy romance, and I do love pirates and seafaring stories. So in this, we are following this young man named Eric who comes from like the Sea Fae. They're called the Ever. And the girl whose name I can't actually remember. I want to say Callie, but I think that's wrong. She is an Earth Fae, from what I can gather, and Eric has been imprisoned for some reason when we start this book. It seems like the Earth Fae and the Water Fae are at war, and he is being used as like collateral in this war. So the girl goes and she tries to befriend him, and she gives him like this little songbird charm or whatnot, and they form this connection. And then we leap forward quite a few years, I want to say like 10, and he is no longer in her life as far as she knows. He is dead, but she has this rune now on her arm. He gave her this like medallion thing, and he said, you know, keep it and I will come back for it, but she ended up like falling on it and breaking, but the rune ended up like pretty much branding into her arm. So she ends up like going into the water to just see how well this barrier that's supposed to separate their two worlds is holding up. And when she touches it, he immediately senses it, because he's not dead. He immediately senses it within his kingdom, and he's like, ah, the barrier has fallen, so now I can go get this medallion that I was promising to go get. Lo and behold, you know, the medallion is broken, and I'm pretty sure that she is now the piece that he is looking for. So he goes to this masquerade ball, he hits on her, and she's all like, hey, this mysterious stranger, you know, for once in my life, I'm gonna be reckless and crazy and hook up with this stranger. Little does she know that this is Eric, the young boy who she tried to befriend, and now she's insanely attracted to him, except for when she realizes it's him, and he kidnaps her and forces her into his ship and back below into the sea realm. And there he is trying to use her to get to her father as part of this war. So I'm really liking how this is set up. It's giving like backstory into the characters and their motivations and their connection. It's not like spoon feeding me information about how the world is set up and things like that. I like that as of right now at 35%, there's not been any like sort of romantic inclinations. Like, you can tell they're attracted to each other and you can tell that they're connected somehow. But as of right now, they are trying to avoid one another, and they haven't really interacted in any sort of romancy way, which I'm liking that slow build up because it adds that tension to it. I also really like the side characters on his ship and how I feel like they're going to be sort of a found family for this girl, and she's going to realize that maybe the Sea Fae aren't the bad people that she's always thought they were, because her kingdom has pretty much altered history and what happened in this war. So this is going good. I'm enjoying it. Hopefully I will get a little bit more read, but because this is a vlog, why not add some vloggy footage? Y'all are gonna be super excited. When I say I don't like vlogging because I hardly ever have anything to show other than like my daily life, like I work from home, so I don't go out and do things all that often. Today is super duper exciting. I have to reorganize my Tupperware drawer and my utensil drawer. I know, right? So exciting. But hey, footage, so enjoy me doing that. Okay, I got my Tupperware and my utensil drawer all organized. I got my kitchen cleaned. I got my fan cleaned. Now it is time to refill my laundry detergent. If you watch my videos, I can't remember when I made my own laundry detergent. I want to say back in like February maybe. And I've refilled it once. So I bought all the ingredients to make my own laundry detergent, and so far it has made me 89 loads I'm at now, and I still haven't run out of ingredients to make it. So the ingredients I have are baking soda, washing soda, Epsom salt, sea salt, and essential oil. That's it. 5 ingredients. So I still have that left, so I'm going to fill this up once again. I think I'm gonna do one, and then if I have enough ingredients left over, I'm gonna do another. What? Meow. What? I would definitely say that making my own laundry detergent has saved me money, because I don't think I could have gotten 89 loads out of like a Tide Pods. That's the update on that, if anybody was curious. Today is not the best day for me. I'm just not happy today. Kind of sad. Gonna try not to cry while I film this video. But I slept like shit last night. Every little noise woke me up, and my brain was just coming up with ridiculous scenarios that wouldn't let me sleep, as it sometimes does. And because I couldn't sleep, I figured I might as well read, so I finished reading The Ever King, and I'm giving this 4.5 stars. I really liked this one. It just missed the 5-star mark for me, but I liked the seafaring, piratey fae aspect of it. I really liked the different like elemental magics that were included, and like how each fae had their own ability with those elements. I also liked that there were limits to what they could do with their magic. I liked that this had somewhat of a friends to lovers relationship to it, where I've seen this marketed once again as enemies to lovers, because it also has that captor-captive, because our main character, Eric, he does kidnap, I cannot remember this girl's name for the life of me, but I know it's not Callie. I don't know why her name just does not stick in my brain. But he kidnaps her and takes her away because there was a war between like the Sea Fae and the Earth Fae, and he's trying to use her to get her father to like broker peace. But they did know each other as children, and she befriended him as a child. He was a prisoner of war, and so she snuck him little trinkets and she told him stories. So they built this friendship, and then they were separated for years and years and years. So it almost goes from like friends to strangers to lovers. But I definitely don't think that this is enemies to lovers in any capacity. She doesn't like him so much because he did capture her and he is threatening her family. So she doesn't like him now that he's this grown man, but she doesn't hate him by any means. She's not trying to harm him in any way. He's definitely not trying to kill her despite what he makes her believe. So I definitely wouldn't classify it as enemies to lovers, and I do see that friends to lovers dynamic in there that I like. This wasn't insta-love in my opinion. However, it also wasn't slow burn. I think they get to the romantic nature of their relationship a little bit before 50% mark. And I liked that he was a bad guy with a good heart. And one of the things that I find funny with these bad guy characters who are marketed as morally gray, he's not morally gray, okay? He's got morals. He kills people, and he does it very matter-of-factly with no sympathy and very little mercy. However, there are often two things with these morally gray characters. They're like a sentence thrown in or a character trait that shows us that yes, he might kill people, he might capture her or whatever, but he's really a good guy. And one of those two reasons are he doesn't take advantage of the love interest when they are intoxicated, drugged, just not in their capacity to agree to what's happening, which he does. Or the other thing is they don't touch, sell, or harm children in any capacity, which he also doesn't do. So with those two aspects, we know that his morals are pretty good morals, even though he does murder people. It's not like he's out here murdering people just willy-nilly. He's murdering people because they deserve it. So I like that bad guy with the heart of gold. I just wish that those weren't the two parameters that I always see with this character trait. Is be nice to kids and don't take advantage of the love interest when they aren't in their mental facilities to agree to it. It's like there's got to be more to define a good character other than those two things, right? Is the bar like that low that those are the only two like things that we can think of to be like, ah, he's not that bad? I thought they had pretty good chemistry. I definitely felt it. Their smut scenes took a while to develop, aside from like, you know, the heavy petting and things like that that they do before 50%. It takes about, I want to say like 70-75% for the first smut scene to actually kick in. And I did like that it showed a progression in their relationship. And every time they were just about to, something would always get in the way of that, which built that tension, and I liked. I liked the ending of this. It ended on a cliffhanger, which I am looking forward to jumping into the next book because it continues their relationship. However, I'm not going to jump into it immediately because it didn't hook me that much. But overall, this was a 4.5-star read. The only things I didn't like about it were we have a female main character who doesn't stand out immensely to me. Like, I can't even remember her name, for God's sake. I liked her character. She had sympathies, but she also could be a little ruthless when she wanted to be. She's learning how to use her powers. She has a little bit of anxiety, which is another thing I liked within this story, was how Eric helped her through her anxieties. But she just didn't stick in my brain immensely. I didn't also love the fact that she is a virgin main character, and while she's like a little hesitant and isn't quite sure, as soon as they have sex, she's like giving him a blowjob and it's like the best thing he's ever had. She like goes from 0 to 60 like that, which I also didn't love. So this was a hit. It was worth the free price tag that I got it for. And I would say if you're able to find it on Kindle Unlimited, or you're able to get it for free, or even if you're able to get it for like $2.99, I would say that it's definitely worth that. And I'm glad that I enjoyed this book because I do know I have the special editions of the Ever King and the Ever Queen coming from Arcane Society soon. So I'm glad that I liked this book, that I will have special editions of it, because sometimes I get special editions of books and I end up not liking them. So that was a very pleasant plus. On to the next book that I'm going to read for this Royalty Unstuff Your Kindle vlog. I started reading My Queendom for a Horse. I had no clue what this book was, okay? I picked it up for free, mainly because there was a horse on the cover, and I thought it looked like a fantasy romance, and it might be, but at this point, I'm about like 12% into it, so I haven't gotten very far. But at this point, it's a contemporary, which I was not expecting. This is about a girl who, once again, I cannot remember her damn name. She is a veterinarian, she owns a farm, and she is also a jockey. But her father has gambled away all of their money and stuff like that. So she has to ride her horse in this horse race to try and win this big amount of money to pay off the debts that her father owns in order to keep their farm. She's always had like an affinity with horses. She's very good with them. But when she's in this race, she's speaking to her horse. And one of the horses next to her is this big, like, black stallion looking horse who's very aggressive. People don't love him. The jockeys don't like riding him because he's just very temperamental. I think they call him the Black Devil or something like that. I can't remember. But she's talking to her horse and she's telling her horse, we need to win this because if we don't win this, we're not going to be able to pay these debts and whatever, and I'm going to lose the farm. And she notices that this horse next to her, this black stallion, like, is like paying attention to her. He's like looking at her, his ears are perked to her, and she's like, horses are very intuitive, but there's no way he can understand what I'm saying, right? So mid-race, she's falling behind this black stallion and its rider, and this black stallion sort of just eases up and allows her and her horse to win. And she's like, that's weird. Like, there's no way. It must have been something to do with the jockey. There's no way that this horse could know what I'm thinking or feeling. And after the race, she encounters this horse again, and his owner is being very abusive. They've got like ropes tied all around him. They're trying to shove him into this trailer, whipping him, things like that. And she's like, I will buy this horse from you. And he's like, girl, you have no money. But she eventually wears him down and she buys this horse. And that's pretty much where I left off with this story. Can't remember what the series name is. It's something about like Russian something. Russian witch or something like that. I don't know. So that gave me the sense that it was going to be fantastical. And it might be because I'm thinking, is this horse like a horse shifter? Is he going to turn into a man and they're going to fall in love or something? Or is she just able to communicate with horses or something? But it also has queendom in the title. So I'm like thinking, is she like a Russian princess or something? And she's like going to be queen of the horses or something. Like, I have no fucking clue what this book is. But I was not expecting it to be a contemporary. So as of right now, I'm intrigued. I do like the horse aspect because I did grow up a horse girl. I love horses. They're one of my favorite animals. So I'm liking that aspect of it. That's what hooked me about this book. The writing is kind of not the best. It sort of just goes from one thing to the next thing without any sort of transition or any sort of paragraph break. Like, there's a moment in this book where she's like, okay, I will offer you this much for this horse. And then the next line is she's holding the reins. And I had to go back and reread that because I was like, when did you hand him the money? I feel like it could be written a little bit more smoothly, but other than that, I haven't really noticed anything too drastic about it. So I am going to continue reading this and I will give you an update. Maybe when I finish it, maybe when I'm a little bit further into it. I don't know. We'll see how I'm feeling. But I did it. I made it through this little update without breaking down. Gimme. Small progress is made. Okay, so I will see you later. Bye. I am back. I finished reading My Queendom for a Horse, and as I suspected, this is a horse shifter romance. It's not fantasy romance at all. It was more of a contemporary paranormal romance, a very minor paranormal. About the only paranormal is the fact that this guy can shift into a horse, and there's some talk of like a curse and a witch, but we never actually see that. So he's a horse shifter. He can only shift into a horse if she is touching him and she says, I wish you were a horse, or she can shift him back by saying, I wish you were a man. And he wants to try and figure out what happened to him and the details of his curse. There were these families in Russia that all got this curse put on them. So he's trying to learn modern day ways and try and figure out what happened to the families that were cursed with him. Are they still alive? He was once a very wealthy Russian prince, so he wants to see if his family line is still alive so that he can claim his inheritance and all that. So he's pretty much stuck in this modern era with our female main character, whose name is Christiana. And she's very reluctantly trying to help him because she is on the verge of losing her family farm because of her father's gambling. And when her father starts gambling again, it puts even more pressure on her. So she has to reluctantly rely on her ex, who is a banker, who is sort of in her life as well. So this does have a bit of a love triangle aspect as well. And you know how I hate love triangles. I hate them with a dying passion. But this one didn't irritate me so much because I knew she wasn't in love with her ex. She was just willing to give him a second chance and see where it went for the benefit of her family farm and things like that. She didn't hate her ex by any means. They fell out of love because he ended up marrying somebody else, and then he got divorced, and he realized that, you know, she's the woman that he really loved, and she's like, it's been all this time, you know. Meanwhile, she is developing feelings and falling in love with the male main character, who is the horse shifter. But she's trying to be very sensible about it, and she's telling him, you know, we can't be together. You have nothing to offer me. You're not from the modern time. You don't have any money. You have nothing to your name. You can't help me in any beneficial way. And she's not saying this to be mean to him or her feelings or anything like that. She's just saying it as a way of like, I know you're attracted to me, but you can't help me in this scenario, whereas my ex can. Which leads our main male character, whose name, oh my god, I cannot remember his name. Jesus, I am so bad with names lately. It leads him to push him more toward finding his family lineage and stuff and seeing if it's still around, because if he can prove that he is a prince of this family line, maybe he can get his wealth back. And he sees that as the way to win her heart, because her ex is a wealthy banker. He comes from a wealthy family. So he sees that as the way to sort of prove to her that he can be beneficial to her and protect her and take care of her. So I ended up enjoying this one. I ended up giving it 4 stars. I really liked the horse shifter aspect. It's the perfect book if you're a horse girly. It definitely has a lot of horse racing elements to it and a lot of just like taking care of horses. So if you love horses, I'm sure you would really enjoy this. I love that our main male character was very protective of the female main character without being like overly possessive. I liked the relationship development between them. It is a very slow progressing, although on his part it's pretty instantaneous. He's like, I'm attracted to this girl, but it takes them a while to get to that point where they acknowledge their feelings for one another. And through her being like, you can't offer me anything, I sort of felt that emotion for him. I felt bad for him. I'm like, oh, but he's such a sweet guy. He protects you. He gives you those butterflies and things like that. He gives you that passion that you want that your ex doesn't. And so I felt his emotions when she was saying these things to him, not in a cruel way, but in a realistic way. I liked that this book included so much like horse racing information and things like that. I feel like I actually learned something about horse racing. That's not something that I'm overly familiar with. But I liked that because the character is a horse vet, she is a jockey, she owns a farm. It wasn't just like something that was surface level. You could really tell that this was something that this character was passionate about, and I almost feel like the author either has knowledge in it or she did her research into it. There were a couple things that kept this from being a 5-star. One of them being something I mentioned earlier, is that the writing could jump from one thing to the next without any sort of flow to it. And as I read more, I stopped noticing it as much. I think I just got more interested into the story, so I wasn't paying as much attention, but there is that. The other thing is I'm not sure where the whole queendom within the title of this book comes into play, because she is not a queen. She is not a princess. She's just a regular ass human. And there's like a hint that these families were cursed by this witch, but we see absolutely none of that. So I think the cover, the name of the series, the title, portrays this book as something that it's not. Hopefully, and I do plan on continuing this series, hopefully in sequential books, we dive more into that curse and that witch aspect. And the other thing that really like bothered me about this is our female main character, Christiana. She is very self-degrading. She calls herself ugly. She calls herself stupid. Not a lot, but she does it enough that I found it very annoying. She constantly wonders why her rich ex would want to be with her, why this really handsome horse shifter would want to be with her, because she doesn't see herself as pretty or smart or anything like that. And I'm just like, babe, you're a fucking horse vet. You own your own farm. Like, so you don't wear fancy dresses. Why would you think you're ugly and not smart? I don't understand it. I don't love it when characters degrade themselves like that. It's like, you're not, so stop. But other than that, this was a surprise. I definitely think if you are a horse girly and you like your shifter romances with a horse shifter, you should check this out. If you can find it for free, if you can find it on Kindle Unlimited, I definitely think it was worth that free price tag that I picked it up for. I will say this has absolutely no spice in it at all. I think they kiss a couple times, but that's it. She does see him naked quite a bit, because when he shifts from human to horse, you know, he's naked. So there is a lot of mention of her seeing his anatomy, but nothing comes of it. There's absolutely no spice. So if you're looking for a no spice contemporary paranormal shifter romance, here you go. So with that, I am going to start my next book. I think I might pick up this one first, just because it's the shorter, and see if I can get into it. So that is it for me today. It is a lazy Sunday, so I have absolutely no plans whatsoever. So I just washed my face, brushed my teeth. I switched out of my nighttime jammies into my daytime jammies, because I'm just gonna lay around the house. I might cut up a watermelon today. We have a watermelon that's been sitting for a couple days, and I need to get that cut up. So maybe I'll include some footage of that, because that's literally all I'm going to do today. So, an update. I actually finished reading this book, A Princess of Vision. I had no idea what this book was. I had a feeling it was a fantasy romance, but I didn't know if it was like young adult or adult. I knew absolutely nothing about it. I picked it up for free on one of those stuff your Kindle days. But apparently, this is an adult fantasy romance with some steam. I want to say about like 1.5 peppers worth of steam. And what I didn't also realize is that this is the second book in a series. I'm assuming you can read them as standalones and they're just all connected in the same world. But I did not know that because when I started reading this book, it just jumped in with this character who she has like this sudden headache. She sees this bright flash of light and she loses her vision. But in replace of losing her vision, she gains the ability to like see people's emotions as like colors in their auras. Because in this world, it's called the balance, I guess, and so in order to have one thing, you have to give up another thing. And somebody had wished for her to lose her vision in order to like gain power over her brother, who is the king, and use him for political gain or whatnot. So she loses her vision, and she's slowly having to learn how to navigate her world, being blind, learning how to differentiate like what the different colors she's seeing means as far as people's emotions go. But her brother, being king, wants somebody to escort her around and be there as her bodyguard pretty much. So he sends for his best friend, who just so happens to be a warrior, to come and be her bodyguard. The only problem is she and this man, they have grown up together. She's always had a crush on him, but something happened in their past a few years ago where she almost took the chance to try and become more with him, and he said some hurtful things to her and then left and never saw her again. So I was surprised to see that this had sort of like a friends to lovers dynamic with it, which y'all know is my favorite trope. I also really enjoyed that this had a blind female main character. Now, she does have a little bit of magic where she can see the auras of people, so she's not like completely, totally blind. But I did like seeing that blind representation in a fantasy romance. And by the end of this book, she is still blind. It wasn't something that totally got magically fixed, which I also appreciated. Now, I don't know if in the sequential books if that like gets reversed or anything, but in this book it did not. This book doesn't have a very strong plot. For the majority of this book, it is pretty much just character focused, and it's her learning how to navigate this new world, and it has a lot of like court politics in it, as well as she's like going to balls and she's interacting with other courtiers, and she's helping her brother in his like council meetings and things like that. So there's not a super strong plot, but I did enjoy my time with it overall. I'm going to give it a very low 4-star because I did enjoy it. I liked a lot about it, but I also wish there could have been more to the story. There was more action toward the end of it. The romance was very slow moving, which I appreciated, and I actually wasn't expecting this to have any smut in it at all, because the characters, I never really got a sense of how old they were until like the very end. I found out that she is about 21 at this point, but they did read rather young adult as opposed to adult. But there is a couple smut scenes in here. They're not very detailed smut scenes. If you like the friends to lovers dynamic, you might check this out. If you are looking for a fantasy romance with a character with a disability, you might check this out. I'm kind of wavering on whether or not I want to continue with this series. I think it's something that if I could find the other books for free, I might, but I don't have this overwhelming desire to continue on with the series because each book follows a different couple, and each of the books, it is mentioned beforehand that they end happily ever after with no cliffhanger. So following this couple, who is Avon, could be Evan. It's spelled A-E-V-I-N. I kept calling him Avon because it just sounded better. And Jocelyn. I wish her name would have been Jocelyn because I kept wanting to call her Jocelyn, but it's missing the L, so it's Jocelyn. Their romance and their story wrapped up pretty satisfyingly. This wasn't too bad of a story, and I liked several things about it. I did read it in like one day. I felt the chemistry between the characters because Avon, he is also this, what they call a beast. He has these very innate natural instincts that allow him to sense when danger is near whenever he is emotionally invested or romantically interested in somebody. He has these just natural instincts to protect and possess and things like that. And in this world, being a beast isn't a great thing. People look down on them because they have those natural instincts, and they are prone to more like aggressive emotions. So when something happened between him and Jocelyn in the past, she didn't understand why he pushed her away, and he's always like, you know, it's better if you're mad at me, because he can control those emotions that he is feeling for her, because he doesn't think that she feels the same. And they have sort of this miscommunication at some point where they're intimate and something happens and he pulls away and she thinks it's because his inner beast wants this more than the man actually wants this. And then they sort of have to clarify that. So I felt their emotions and I felt their chemistry really well. I think it could have done with a little bit more tension, because other than them fighting their feelings for one another, there wasn't a whole lot of tension within their story. Not necessarily anything dramatic or anything. I just wish there was like a little bit more tension, a little bit higher stakes to their story. But overall, low 4-star. Can't complain. It was enjoyable and I read it in one sitting. So I definitely think this was worth the free price tag I paid for it. If you can find it for free or on Kindle Unlimited, I would say, you know, if it sounds interesting to you, might as well check it out. So I thought about continuing on and doing a 4th book for this vlog, but I do want to wrap it up, get it edited and scheduled. I think I'm going to stop it here because this has been probably the most successful Unstuff Your Kindle vlog I've done. All of these books were 4 stars and above. All of them I would recommend. All of them I enjoyed. So can't complain on this one. It was a good selection. Let me know down in the comments what was the last book featuring royalty you read. But if you don't want to comment that but would like to let me know that you made it to the end of this video, could you just leave me a crown emoji, please? And with that, thank you once again for sticking around. And until my next video, go read a book featuring royalty. Bye.